What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast. And here we're going to continue on this narrative of these Latin American countries embracing Bitcoin. So we have Tyler Winklevoss tweeting here Paraguay, Argentina, Panama, Brazil, El Salvador, Nicaragua. They're all embracing Bitcoin. And I mean, I don't believe that anything's been signed into law, but there's a lot of conversation, a lot of chatter that's been happening about it. So this is a momentum that's carrying right through all these Latin American countries. So we'll see where it ends up. However, I'm going to reiterate the fact of what I said. This goes along with the IMF and what it looks like could be the next step that comes from this. I don't know. It's a possibility. It's a probability that it could happen. There's no certainties. But it's very interesting to note this, and I'll play this video just so you can see for yourself.
And I see a bunch of questions on the screen, which I can't really read from here, but we're supposed to pick some. Can you see those? Oh, there's 2 votes.
Let me try.
Do you see IMF holding crypto assets in the future? Oh, they're over here. That's easier. You want to take one? Go for it. The first one's for you. IMF. Do you see IMF holding crypto assets in the future? I did not put that up there.
Remember, I'm from the legal department. I'm supposed to be very conservative about these things. I don't want to go into great details about
Maybe
the IMF.
I should take what the IMF is going to do. I think we stunned Ross into silence with that one.
For that to happen, okay, under the current legal framework, some country would have to use a crypto asset as its currency.
Whether they're called bitcoins, iridium.
Okay, so a country would have to use a crypto as their legal tender. So that's why it's very interesting. Okay, now moving on, we see here that BBC News, major newspaper, and government websites are down. We see here that UK government website was down, as were the Financial Times, the Guardian, and the New York Times. So there was issues with that. Now here we see it on the news.
We're tracking an internet outage that's taking place right now across multiple global websites. This includes Reddit, the New York Times, the UK government site, and more. We're seeing the FT, the Guardian, a number of other sites that seem to be down, and we're working to gather more information on it. We'll bring it to you as soon as we get it. The future's taking a leg down right now. Unclear whether it's related or not. You're looking at the Dow looking like it would open down about 112 points. NASDAQ still up about 6 points. And the S&P 500 down about 7.5 points.
NASDAQ was up by about 44.
All right, so we see that. And this is becoming a reoccurring theme where we're starting to see these hacks everywhere. And it makes you wonder, what did Klaus Schwab say? He did say that there could be a crisis, cyber attack crisis, that would make this pandemic seem insignificant, like a blip in the radar in comparison. Okay, so we see major internet outages hit multiple sites, including Reddit, Amazon, and the New York Times. And here's Klaus Schwab. I've shown this video lots of times. And so it's important to take note of everything that's happening. Now, with whatever happened with the Colonial Pipeline, is very interesting because I do believe it's a reaction problem solution, or problem reaction solution. And where things happen in such a way that, it's presented like, oh, now we can solve the problem through this. Now, there's been a lot of details and a lot of reactions from different people about how it was confiscated or recovered, how the Bitcoin was confiscated and recovered. And it's interesting here. I'll play the beginning of this so you can hear what she says.
Today we announced the seizure of millions of dollars in Bitcoin paid by an innocent victim in ransom in a bid to regain control of computer systems. The extortionists will never see this money.
So In other words, however they're able to, receive or get this money back, I mean, it's beyond me, but it's interesting to know how they're able to regain those funds. So we'll see what happens, but it's setting the stage. And we see here that now Joe Biden is talking about discussing cryptos at the upcoming G7 meeting. Could it be possible that he brings up that same situation from the Colonial Pipeline and talk about different aspects of it? I don't know. Possibility. But we're seeing it's taking center stage on, on one of the biggest platforms, from the biggest nations of the world. And we know that they just talked about a global tax reform for a tax structure for the whole world. And there was just a historic agreement that happened. And I covered that yesterday in yesterday's video. And he also, yeah, we see here, Biden discusses crypto's role in ransomware attacks. Okay, so it's something that's taking center stage again. So we have to pay attention to these things because they're happening right before our eyes. And if we see something start to take or gain traction, such as cyber attacks, then you got to be aware that something is coming. And we see here that Russia, here's the thing, folks. Everything that's happening, it's we're in a very bad situation economically. And as these countries are rejecting the dollar and moving away from the dollar, it's creating a scenario in which we're gonna the consequences from that are gonna, you know, shock us economically. And so we're gonna see things that, I mean, we probably haven't seen in our lifetime, possibly. And it could get very wild and crazy. We see here Russia is removing dollar assets from its wealth fund. Russian authorities are planning to shift the nation's currency liquidity from the dollar to the euro. Financial chiefs, G7 economies will discuss rules for digital currencies issued by central banks. And we see this shift taking. Now, why is it important to have a global reserve currency that's neutral, that's a bridge asset to everything? And there's been talk about that this whole new financial system was designed to avoid a World War III. Now, if that's true, who knows? But we see this shift happening away from the US dollar. So it's important to take notice of that. Here we see that the Bank of England is warning that digital currencies pose threats to the economy. Now, why is that? They said the rise of digital currencies could lead to a flood of withdrawals from high street banks, risking financial stability and the wider economy. Now, first of all, it's not because people will go away from these banks. I think that's just, there could be something to do with that. But I think they've created a system in which they themselves have created instability in the economy from their monetary and fiscal policies. It's not really us moving away from the banks. It's almost like they're putting blame on the common person, you know. So I mean, this is ridiculous. But there's more towards the article. You can go ahead and read it. But it's interesting the different narratives that you see. But if you pay attention and you have an eye on everything that happens, you're going to be well prepared for what you already foresaw based on the current events. And right now, we see that cyber attacks or outages, power outages, are becoming a reoccurring and common theme. And so I know let me see here, there was a video by the World Economic Forum that was released where it compared a cyber attack to the virus right here. And if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend because it starts with one and then it multiplies. And if it multiplies throughout all these systems, these network systems, it could create a massive outage. So I'd highly recommend watching this because it's very interesting in the comparison that they make. So prepare, you see what's coming, you know the things ahead of time, and so don't be deceived and get caught off guard. Prepare beforehand. If you see the writing on the wall, then prepare for it because you've been warned. You've been educated on it. I hope this episode has brought you some value. Like and subscribe. Comment below. What are your thoughts? As always, I like hearing from you. This is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.